Hi, everyone. All right, today we are taking really a deep dive into the three most common symptoms that people have with thyroid problems.
Well, I'm coming in cold. I'm taking a cold, how do you call it? Cold vacation?
Coldcation.
I'm taking a cold cation coming in cold from Calgary, Canada. And today we are going into the top symptoms that you've been dealing with thyroid struggles. And without further ado, here we go.
Hi, everyone. I'm Anna Manuel alongside Dr. Maggie Yu. Dr. Maggie is on location in a cold climate. How appropriate that we're talking about thyroid where you're somewhere very chilly because that's often a symptom, right? that people do
Yeah.
struggle with being
And
having
the word for the day, Anne, is coldcation. I'm
that
coming in coldcation from Calgary, Canada.
well, I hope that you're nice and warm in your room. And everybody, I hope you're warm at home. Get a blanket, cuddle up, and let's talk all about your biggest thyroid concerns, issues, questions, because Dr. Maggie is here to help.
I'd love to know where you're coming in from. If you can tell me in chat where you're watching from, that'd be really great. And if you're an alumni of any of the programs to Transform, I would love for you to type in chat alumni, which program you're in, and what struggles in your health you have overcome. Just type it in chat so I can see who's in. That'll be really great. And if you're new to us or you haven't done any of our programs, you haven't worked with me before, I'd love for you to just tell me more about what's going on with you. That'd be really awesome. If you have a question about your thyroid or one of your top stubborn most I'm going to ask you this right now, actually. What do you think is your top thyroid symptom or most stubborn thyroid symptom? If you can put that in chat, that'd be really great because we asked our Facebook group last week. By the way, did you guys catch us live last week? If you did, put live in chat to let me know that you caught us last week. Last week we really focused on low thyroid
And it
and
was all about the link of autoimmunity with thyroid.
yeah.
And I have to tell you, I got
Mm.
several personal messages from people who caught that live and said it was so impactful and helpful with so much good information. So if anybody did miss that live, go ahead and put it in chat that you would like a replay, and we can get you a link of that live so you don't miss a thing and you really get all of the information all about thyroid, because today you're going to take an even deeper dive. We're talking about the symptoms that people deal with. And Dr. Maggie, what I'm so excited to hear about as well is you're going to have actual case studies so we can go through and
Yep.
say, you know what? I really relate to that person. I've had some of those same things happen in my life.
I'm getting jealous because someone's coming in from Tallahassee, Florida right now. They have a warm vacation over there, or that's where they live. I love
I
that.
used to live in Tallahassee. So hi, B. Smith from Tallahassee. And then we're
Orlando.
yeah, Orlando. And we're starting to see some of like Sandra says her most stubborn symptoms she thinks are fatigue and hair loss. And Sandra, you are not alone. In fact, those are two topics we are definitely going to touch on tonight.
We have three top symptoms we're going to explore tonight, everybody, based on what you guys said in the Facebook group. And we've collected some of your comments and questions. The top three symptoms that we have heard from you is number one is fatigue, number two is hair loss, and number three is stubborn weight gain, basically an inability to lose weight. So those are the three topics that we're going to blow wide open tonight with some case studies. Also, what's the link with the thyroid? Without further ado, though, I would love to bring on a special guest.
Here she is, our very own functional nutritionist with the mostest, Kathy Ryan. Kathy, thank you so much for joining us for this. Once again, you were such an integral part of our week last week talking about the thyroid. So thanks for being here.
I'm really happy to be here. And I'm so glad that Dr. Maggie's she's on the right side of the border for once. She's come over to the dark side. She's here. She's complaining way too much about the cold. It's really not that bad. But I'm so happy that you are on the right side of the border. Welcome.
The reason she's saying that because she's a Canadian. So basically, Canadians are taking over Transform Thyroid Live tonight. Just saying.
There we go. I love it.
Okay, so I want to know, first of all, Dr. Maggie, because we're getting a lot of people coming in with their comments and a lot of people want want more information about last week's live too. So maybe should you start off with any kind of overview a little bit about the thyroid, and how many people do you see coming to you with thyroid problems?
Literally thousands. Okay,
Yeah.
thousands. And I think the biggest issue, and Kathy, you and I see this every day when we're working with our clients, teaching our students, what we find is that I would say that the one of the most common hidden problems, like the devil you don't know, which is what I said last week, is actually thyroid problems.
Mhm.
And I also see thyroid as the area where there's one of the most, what I would say, medical gaslighting going on, where people are routinely dismissed. I would say that the majority of clients we work with some of these symptoms that we're talking about, and many more, type in your symptom, everybody. Absolutely, there's a link with the thyroid, but people are being told erroneously that it is not their thyroid and that their thyroid labs are normal, or that it's not linked with anything else that's going on with their health. So last week we really went deep dive and we talked about how there's a huge link, and that, just so you guys know, write this down. I really want you to write this down. 90%, 90% of people with low thyroid is actually related with an autoimmune attack, an autoimmune disease against the thyroid. And many people with low thyroid have many other sort of diagnoses, symptoms, or mystery symptoms that are actually related with autoimmunity. If you fit that bill, type it in chat. Okay. If that rings true to you, if you fit that bill, type it in chat. And unfortunately, doctors are not trained on, number one, the proper labs to test for thyroid. Number two, also the link between thyroid and autoimmune disease. So that's what we talked about last week. And there was 2 resources that we shared last week. So get ready to type in chat, everybody. All right. So number one, we have a 6-part thyroid training that is bonus, that's free, along with our thyroid guide with a full thyroid symptom list. And training and recommendations around thyroid supplementation as well. That's our thyroid guide and 6-part training. That's free. So if you want the thyroid guide and the training with it, type in the chat, thyroid guide and training, type it into chat. We will get it to you. Okay. So number one, that's a resource. Okay. There's a second resource. About a month ago, we did a 1 to 2 trainings around hair loss and the underlying root causes of hair loss. And you guys know there's many different types. If you're dealing with hair loss, I want you guys to know we have just put together a new resource for you guys, which is we have a all new guide, number one, hair loss guide, and a 6-part training series that's free that I've done in the past. And we put them all together, a 6-part training series on hair loss and the underlying root causes of hair loss. So if you want the hair loss guide and the training, put it in chat right now and tell us what struggles you're having with it. We want to get those resources to you. So that's a summary of what's happened just in the last month and last week around hair loss and thyroid.
Thank you, Dr. Maggie. And Kathy, you wanted to add something about the thyroid.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, when Dr. Maggie was talking about a lot of the gaslighting that happens with doctors, I want to just give them, there's some gaslighting definitely, but there's also some doctors that I would like to give the benefit of the doubt to, that they just don't have the tools in their toolkit, right? They don't have the tools in their toolkit. They don't have the knowledge. They don't have the experience with the thousands of labs that Dr. Maggie and I see on a regular basis. So that's one of the key things, I think, is that we get to see all these patterns that a lot of these docs don't get to see. And we have a lot more tools in our toolkit than they do. Just saying.
And I'm looking at a comment like this, and this person said they think they had an autoimmune flare, which then impacted their thyroid and adrenals. And I'm just thinking about if they would have that conversation with their rheumatologist, let's say, the roadblock that they might be met with when they start bringing up the connections between, well, is it impacting my thyroid? Is it impacting my adrenals? And it would just be so challenging, I would imagine, when talking to a conventional medicine doctor to get help addressing this.
Yes. Well, I look at that right now. I'm wondering from this Facebook user which autoimmune disease this person has, number one. Number two, she or he is talking about the link between thyroid and adrenals. So thyroid is a hormone-making organ. Just a little background, everybody. Thyroid is right here in your neck. It's like a walnut-sized organ. It looks like a little butterfly here. It makes thyroid hormone, okay? Small little gland, but really mighty. And we talked about last week how every single cell on your body actually has a thyroid receptor. When active thyroid hormone hits that receptor on a cell, whether it's a gut cell, a brain cell, a nerve cell, It actually is like an on-off switch. It turns on that cell and allows that cell to function properly.
Mhm.
So how critical is the thyroid hormone, active thyroid hormone? How critical is the receptor sensitivity to that? And how critical is thyroid to every single function of every single cell in your body? 100%, because there's a thyroid receptor on every cell of your body. Back to that comment though, is I
And here's
that
what the
comment.
person has was connective tissue disease, you were asking.
Well, and mixed connective tissue disorder, just going through autoimmunity. Yes, I am an expert in autoimmune disease, so is Kathy, right? And when you look at connective tissue disorder, there's connective tissue like in muscles, joints, vision, eye, in your bowels, in your swallowing, esophagus. There's a lot of connective tissue everywhere in your body. Even hair and your scalp is made of connective tissue, right? So that's an autoimmune disease, typically in the realm of a rheumatologist. A rheumatologist supposedly is a specialist of autoimmune disease, but the person who said I have connective tissue disease is linking now, saying like, oh wow, how am I supposed to make the connection between the thyroid and adrenals? I will tell you right now, 100%, your rheumatologist has no training on how to actually thoroughly evaluate the thyroid, number one. And number two, they don't even really have any training. Well, they have no training around what adrenal hormones are. And that's the problem. And even if you went to your endocrinologist, okay, I'm just going to ask you guys for your experience right there. When you guys have gone to your endocrinologist, who's supposed to be the expert on thyroid, do they know anything about adrenal fatigue? Do they know there's a connection between adrenal fatigue and your thyroid or your autoimmune condition? Okay, type it in chat. Don't let me tell you. This is the current standard of care out there, is that they have no idea the connection with thyroid, other autoimmune conditions or other health conditions, or even what the adrenal is or how it connects with thyroid or other medical conditions.
Yeah, I was going to say that this person is super smart for even making that connection where most doctors won't make a connection between, hey, I think my autoimmune disease is impacting these other bodily processes. And so, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
if you go to your endocrinologist, you're right. They may not even acknowledge that adrenal fatigue is something that's bona fide, that's real.
Correct. And so that's why for me, one of the most important aspects of it is we're going to focus on thyroid today, right? But I'm going to just ask the question here, and this was asked last week. The first symptom that everybody's been talking about is fatigue.
Mhm.
Okay, fatigue, tired.
Mhm.
And Anne's going to pull up some quotes from some of you from your questions and comments that's already happened about fatigue. And when I'm talking about fatigue and you guys are talking about fatigue, tell me what you mean by it. Because what the thousands of people we talk to and we work with every year, what we find is it's like this deep, deep fatigue that's not just physical. It
Yes.
is mental. There's brain fatigue, the
Mhm.
inability to, and brain cells can experience fatigue as well. And it's not just I'm a little bit tired. And most people I will tell you that we work with are pushing through their fatigue. It's not like they're sitting here laying on the couch, and some people have to, right? But most people we talk to, they're pushing through the fatigue. They look like normal people.
Yeah.
How many of you are fatigued as hell and you look like a normal person?
And you're self-medicating. You're self-medicating with caffeine, you're self-medicating with sugar, you're self-medicating with anything just to keep you up and moving because you've got your job, you've got your family, you've got your other activities, and you don't have the privilege, the ability to just stop your life because you're tired. But like Dr. Maggie said, this is a deep seated tired
Yeah.
exhaustion, right? It's not just, oh, I need to take a nap and I'm going to feel better. This is like, I need to take a 3-year nap and then maybe I'll feel better.
Yeah.
You know, one of my favorite YouTube channels, I don't know if you guys know this about me, I freaking love makeup. And I love watching YouTube on, and I have several YouTube content creators, many on that I watch. And one of the channels that I watch, and she's an extremely talented makeup artist, but she's been struggling with chronic fatigue for 10 years.
Oof.
And when I look at somebody like that, where I mean, beautiful, talented, hardworking, and she makes so much content, there'll be like sometimes a couple weeks or a couple months where she can't or doesn't create content at all. And you would have never know looking at her YouTube channel. So for me, this is a big deal, and it is a hidden secret just how many people are actually struggling with chronic fatigue. Go ahead, Kathy.
And not only that, who gets the worst of your fatigue? If you have to work, if you have to show up at a job every day, who is going to get the worst of your fatigue? Where are you going to actually,
your family, right? It's happening at home. It's your loved ones, those closest to you, who are dealing with the brunt of this, because you're using every little ounce of energy that you may be able to squeeze out on those tasks that you have to, getting the kids to school, getting to your job, functioning at the bare minimum, it feels like. And then you get home at the end of the day and you just feel like collapsing.
And so it really negatively impacts relationships, right? Like the whole quality of life with fatigue is it's just not there.
Well, and I'm going to ask you guys too in the chat right now, what do you think is causing your fatigue, right? And I've done many videos and trainings around fatigue. It is a multifactorial problem, right? There's many reasons underlying it. I would love to know what you think is the main reason why you're fatigued, right? Or tired, right? I can tell you right now, in working with thousands of people over the years, is that at least 80% of the people we work with has a hidden thyroid problem that they didn't know about. And
80%.
they have been told, yes.
Huge.
And they've been told their thyroid is normal. So they will get the $1 million workup. And I have a case here, which is Linda P. we've worked with. And, I actually have her actual case study here. She's 47. She has a history of fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome. Her family history, mom has a history of rheumatoid arthritis. Dad passed away from colon cancer, and her sister has lupus. And she has been told, and she's had at least 10 occasions over the past 6 years where her thyroid was tested. And she even had some other thyroid labs done. She was told she had a full workup of her thyroid panel, and she was told that her thyroid was normal. And when we actually look back at her thyroid, all I saw was there was a TSH done. Yes, there was a TSH done multiple times, and one of the T4s was done. Okay. And she's been told, and this is a very intelligent, hardworking person who's had $1 million workup, have had everything tested, and told her thyroid was normal. And I will tell you, this happens all the time. When we looked at her labs, when we did a full thyroid panel, what did we discover? I can tell you right now, a couple things. We got to look beyond what the TSH is. I'm going to tell you this right now, because Linda's case is perfect to actually show you guys that her TSH has been normal for 10 years. But when we actually did other lab testing, and I'm just going to show you guys really briefly, this is just one of our curriculum from our thyroid masterclass, some of the mechanisms and some of the thyroid hormones that are related. There's multiple steps between the brain, the thyroid hormone production, where thyroid hormones are actually inactive thyroid hormones are activated and turned to active thyroid hormone. There's literally 10 plus different steps where this can go wrong. And what we found in Linda's case is that, number one, her TSH was normal, okay, which means her brain thinks her thyroid is normal. TSH is not actually a thyroid hormone. It's a brain hormone. It's telling you what your brain thinks. So when we actually measured a full panel of her thyroid hormones, what we found was her production of thyroid hormone was low, way low. And when we tested what her active thyroid hormone levels were, which had never been tested in the last 6 years, she was at 50% of what is optimal for someone.
Wow. That's going to cause a huge impact on your entire body.
I just see it right here. Another one. Look at this. Look at this comment right here. This is what Linda had for 10 years. My new primary care provider tested my TSH, T4 free direct. We're done. Yeah. Welcome to being told that that's going to be normal and that your thyroid is fine. Well, Linda had that for 10 years.
I have another very jarring comment to share with you as well. Look at this one. My doctors say my thyroid is normal. They said my mom's was normal too. And she had thyroid cancer while they were telling her it was normal because of the numbers.
That makes me mad. Jackie, that makes me mad. We talked about this last week. Do you guys know, what do you guys think is the number one reason why someone would have thyroid cancer? What is the number one? Alumni is going to jump in. All the alumni here, all my student teachers here who've been through my thyroid masterclass, who've been through our main program, I want you to type in chat. The number one reason, the main and only reason why someone would have thyroid cancer is, type it in chat. This is just How many people have had a history of thyroid cancer, thyroid nodules, goiters, and cysts while being told their thyroid is fine, their thyroid function is fine, and their thyroid is normal? Yeah, Kimberly Obeer, I love this. Emma's jumping in. Misty. So the only reason that someone would have thyroid cancer is because the autoimmune attack against the thyroid actually causes the cells in your thyroid to morph and change over time, turning some of those cells cancerous. Okay, same with thyroid nodules, goiters, and cysts. So how can anyone say, well, oh, I'm treating you for thyroid cancer, your thyroid is fine? Your thyroid is not fine. There's an underlying autoimmune attack. Your thyroid cells have turned cancerous. How dare you even say my thyroid is fine?
Yeah, and Jackie's mom, she says they only even caught the cancer. It was by accident because they were scanning for other organs and happened to go up too high and said, oh, wait a minute, you've got thyroid cancer.
I don't want to discover thyroid cancer by accident, everybody. I want you guys to be 100% aware. And I'm actually going to validate you. How many of you, get ready to type in chat. How many of you know something's wrong with your thyroid? Put, I know. Put, I know. Okay? Because I can tell you right now, when I tell you that 80% of people we work with have an underlying underperforming thyroid problem or an autoimmune attack against their thyroid, I'm not joking here. And I look at this, look at the I knows. I mean, there's like, it's just, I want to validate every single person here. Jackie, right? How many people here? Ginny.
They're coming in so quickly. There's still dozens and dozens of them coming in.
And look at Misty and her nodules. Carla, I know, right? And I mean, Kathy, one of the most important things that I love when we work with people is to educate you on what are the real labs you need for your thyroid. What are optimal values? Number 2, what's the underlying autoimmune issue relating with this? How every other symptom that you have, another diagnosis you have is linked to your thyroid, because you know what? You are right. You are right.
Yeah. And not only that, I love it when we get our hands on people, because the very first time that they bring their labs to us and we're just like, oh yeah. And 9 times out of 10, it's like, did you know this about your thyroid? And they're like, no, I had no idea. But the other thing that I love that we do is we teach them how to talk to their doctors. We teach them how to understand their own numbers, and we teach them how to protect themselves so that they don't get cancer in the future. We tell them all of that. And that's what I love, because it's not just about what's going on right now. It's about what's the trajectory, where are we going in the future, and how can we change that?
Well, and we got all these people coming in where Carla G is saying multinodular goiter. We just talked about goiter is a reaction to the autoimmune attack, right? 9 mil nodules, not even nodule. Do you guys know that thyroid nodules, goiters, and cysts are precancerous? What are we doing? Sitting duck? And then Carla also says, why do my numbers fluctuate? So this is just a slide from one of our, from part of our curriculum, where, and if you guys want the thyroid guide, put thyroid guide in chat. If you want the hair loss guide, put hair loss guide in chat, okay? Because a lot of this is in the guide as well, and in our program, my thyroid masterclass. So if there's over 6,000 different targets of autoimmune attack, right? What's the likelihood that Carla's nodules on her thyroid is number 1 autoimmune? And what is the number 1 reason why thyroid numbers and function would fluctuate up and down, up and down, up and down? Is that normal? Hey, everybody, is that normal? Is it normal to feel like you're high and low thyroid, up and down, then you're just being told you have anxiety or you're cray-cray?
Nope.
Right? Nope. That's called an autoimmune attack against your thyroid, because as the attack goes up and down, right, your symptoms can go high, low, high, low, high, low. It feels schizophrenic. So we're not just talking about low thyroid here. Many people with autoimmune attack against their thyroid will exhibit high and low thyroid symptoms. And over time or decades, as more and more of the thyroid die, they become low thyroid symptoms. Does that make sense to you guys? I hope this makes total scientific sense here.
Yeah, and the other thing that happens all the time when people have these fluctuating numbers is that their doctors are constantly changing their medications, right? Which is because they're chasing that TSH number, and so it's high and then it's low and it's this and it's that, and it changes from week to week, and it seems like they're never on the right dose.
I mean, you know what? I'm looking at Kimberly's case here, and I'm just like, Kathy, we're like talking about how I
I
can't wait to
know.
get my hands on.
Get
Like,
on.
read this,
Yeah.
like, look at this, everybody. I mean, I look at this. This is one of those cases. I'm like, let me
Mhm.
have at her, and then let's finish this case for breakfast so I can move on to lunch and dinner here. Chronic chronic fatigue syndrome for 25 years, most extreme fatigue and brain fog, but now it's also affecting my thyroid and sex hormones. Well, yes, because chronic fatigue syndrome is 100% linked to thyroid and hormone problems, right? Recently, she started on BHRT, meaning she started on some hormones, everybody. Natural. And it's going to be, if you're taking thyroid medication or you're taking natural hormones, does that mean your thyroid or your hormones are actually balanced? Does it?
Not even a little bit.
I'm going to ask people to type in chat.
A little bit. Are we
Right?
supposed
I
to
mean,
answer that hypothetical question?
well, the thing is, and here's a spoiler alert. Spoiler alert, everybody. Okay, if you never do anything to calm the underlying autoimmune attack on the thyroid, no dose will ever be the right dose.
Exactly.
Think about that. So it's a roller coaster, right? If the roller coaster, you don't do anything to stop the up and down of a roller coaster, and you give a thyroid medication the same dose, it'll always be 80% of the time not enough, too high, too low, not the right, because the underlying roller coaster hasn't been calmed down. The underlying roller coaster is actually the autoimmune attack. So this is why a lot of you are chasing medication. How many are chasing medication? I want to know how many people are chasing the right thyroid medication dose and how long have you been doing it? And I am telling you the holy grail of why that doesn't work, because you're trying to give a static dose to a problem that is fluctuating, doing nothing to calm the actual fluctuation itself, which is the autoimmune attack. Does that make sense? If that makes sense to you, type it in chat. And if you've been guilty or your doctor's been guilty of just chasing medication after your symptoms, meanwhile, no matter how many tests you do, how many dose changes you do, your symptoms are still fluctuating up and down. That's the reason why, because when we deal with people with thyroid, when we deal with people with chronic fatigue syndrome, POTS, autoimmune disorders, hormone imbalances, and Kathy and and Dr. Jason and I are working with clients in our thyroid program, and they uncover that, oh my gosh, in Linda's case, I'm going to just let you guys know, one of her hormones, which is the active thyroid hormone, the only active thyroid hormone, we measured it, okay? It was 50% of what's optimal. And meanwhile, she had chronic fatigue, hair was falling out, depressed as heck, weight gain. And she's been told 6 years that her thyroid is normal with a TSH and free T4. Right? Enough. That's enough. Right?
It's enough.
Yeah. And I think the other thing, when we're talking specifically about fatigue, and we're talking about things like chronic fatigue, thyroid plays a role, but there are also all these other factors that come into play with the thyroid. So I think we'll be talking about that a little bit more. But everything from nutrient deficiencies to...
Well, I think this is perfect time we jump to hair loss. How many of us wants to talk about hair loss? Type in chat. Okay, because that was all over the comments. And Anne, can you bring up some of the comments that people have already? Yeah.
100%. So Kara, she wrote us this comment. My whole body has changed. Hair loss, hormones, puppy face, weight gain. I've got it all. But we saw so many hair loss being repeated. Bree B says, my hair loss I know is due to hypothyroidism and nothing seems to help. Nancy says, can you explain how my low thyroid is causing hair loss? So a lot of people are very convinced about the link that the thyroid could be the culprit for why they're experiencing hair loss.
Anybody with hair loss, type hair loss in chat. And I'm curious, for those with hair loss, what do you think is causing it? Because there are different types of hair loss, right? I want to know what your understanding is, why you have hair loss, or what type of hair loss that you have. Put it in chat right now.
I also want to know of anyone that's losing the outer part of their eyebrows as well. That
outer third.
Losing this part of their eyebrows. Yeah.
And let's talk about that. So you're implying that that might be a classic symptom of hair loss and low thyroid?
Yes.
100%. So this is why I can see someone across the room, across the crowded room. I'm like, ooh, he has low thyroid. Just like I can see thyroid swelling. It's interesting. It's like once you see it, you can't unsee it. But I literally can look at a Zoom with 30, 40 people, and I already know thyroid, 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 thyroid. Like, because there are actual physical signs. But the outer third, specifically of your eyebrows being thin, it's a very telltale sign of someone with low thyroid. And I'm wondering how many of you have that? How many of you have that? Just went, and another one, how about dry, cracked heels? How many of you have dry, cracked heels? Low thyroid. Okay. And then, so a couple things with that. So, hair loss guide. If you are dealing with hair loss, a lot of you guys are commenting about hair loss, type it in chat. If you want the hair loss guide, type it in chat. We have a 6-part training all around hair loss. When we went live last month about hair loss, we promised a part 2, and here it is today. We went into all the underlying root causes of hair loss, which I wrote revisit. So if you want that hair loss training, put it in chat right now. We'll share it with you, right? But today, we promised a part 2 because what does the thyroid have to do with hair loss? And so I want to just bring up that we mentioned on the last hair loss live that low iron can be an underlying cause. And I have a case, which is Mary. Mary Jane actually worked with us. Wow, it's been about 5 years since Mary Jane worked with us. And she is 51. She's a child therapist and has a known history of Hashimoto's. Okay. She has short hair and her head was going bald throughout. And if you look at the very top around here, it was really thin and you could actually see baldness in that area. She was taking thyroid medication. Okay. And even taking thyroid medication, working with an endocrinologist, known Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune attack against her thyroid. She's been told that her dose has been fine. Your dose has been great. When I saw her, she's just, it was literally a hole in the top of her head. Okay. And she did also have low iron. She did have low iron, just so you guys know. So one of the things I want to bring up here is that there is a connection. Some of the important, one of the most important things to understand is there is actually in thyroid panels, some of the thyroid hormone labs is your active thyroid hormone. Okay. And in Mary Jane's case, just like in Linda's case, she's been told by her endocrinologist her thyroid dose is fine. She's taking thyroid medication. She's taking levothyroxine, Synthroid, right? And when we did the testing and when we reviewed it, number one, okay, I'm going to tell you this right now, her active thyroid hormone was in the really low. So this is a perfect scenario of where someone was managed by an endocrinologist, getting labs done, but she was taking the wrong type of thyroid medication that was inactive, by the way, and her actual active thyroid hormone was boom in the shitter. I'm a fan of the cursey word. Sorry about that. So how many of you guys are in that camp where you're taking thyroid medication, you're trying to learn as much as you can, you trust your primary care provider and your endocrinologist that they're managing your thyroid meds, but are you even aware, is your thyroid medication active thyroid hormone? Or is it an inactive precursor? And is it actually working? So is it even the right dose? And do you need to switch to different type of thyroid medication? Kathy, you had something to add about this case.
I wanted to add just another question. And how many people are at the maximum dose of their medication and their doctor's like, that's all I can do for you. Sorry.
I can't go up more.
Can't go up more. So this is as good as it gets, right? Because that's something we see all the time as well.
I have a clue here, clinical pearl, everybody, okay? And this is the kind of stuff you learn in the thyroid masterclass, is that the most common medication prescribed for the thyroid is Synthroid or levothyroxine, and it is what we call T4. And T4 is inactive. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing because your body can take an inactive hormone, and if you have a healthy system to be able to activate it, you might be just fine with that. But that, in fact, is the most common medication that's prescribed, and it's an inactive thyroid hormone. Now, that being said, many people do great with it. But here's the problem, and this is where Mary Jane's case really highlights this problem. She has low iron, which means that what's the underlying problem? All my student teachers in chat, I want you to jump in. This is a really important clue, and I don't know how many of you out there have low thyroid, have low iron as well, okay? If you have low iron, what's the underlying root cause of low iron? That could be linked to Mary Jane's case, in your case, as to what type of thyroid medication would be better for you, for example. Oh my God, Misty, I love you.
Ding, ding,
I love
ding.
you. Oh my God, look at all these comments coming in. Okay.
Yes.
So I am just going to let you guys know that this is a slide for you to remember, which is this is the pillars of transform. And on the left, you see the thyroid, which is part of the hormone balance piece, right? But it is intricately linked. Your thyroid and your gut are really linked. And what does that mean? It means that the only reason, there's many reasons, but the main reason why most people have low iron is because of poor digestion. Emma Info Dumps just said that. Cindy, oh my God, Cindy! We have all these newbies that are currently in the program. We have OG alumni that are in the chat right now. So low stomach acid, digestion issues, right? So here's digestion. You're like, why is she talking about digestion? Okay. And we can talk more about supplementation a little bit later if you guys want. Put supplementation in chat. We can talk about it. But here's the thing. If I know someone has low thyroid and I know that they also have low iron, ding, 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 in my head, I'm thinking, oh, there's a digestion and absorption problem with this iron, right? And, okay, write this down as notes, everybody. Thyroid, inactive thyroid hormone requires activation from inactive to active. Quiz, everybody, get ready. Where does the activation of thyroid hormone happens? The inactive form to the active form. And those of you who don't know, do you want to be this smart where you're the ones typing in chat right now?
Yeah. I can't wait for all of the alumni to start typing this in because here they
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's coming. Jillian says
It's coming.
liver. Misty says gut and liver. Liver, gut, liver, gut. You taught everyone so well.
I just love this. And I mean, there are people here that just like a week or two into our program. And there are people here, OG, I love this. And there's even people I have not seen in any of our programs, like Kristen right there, who said liver. Oh no, is there a last name change? There is a last name change. I wonder why, Kristen. I'm seeing pictures. I remember everybody, just so you guys know, there are details about people. I will never, people like 6 years later, how does she remember me? I remember you, Kristen. I know who you are. All right. So I want to let you guys know that there's a huge link between thyroid and your gut. And that's why it's really critical that people who are chasing the thyroid medication, chasing the right thyroid labs, but yet there's no work around and understanding around how digestion, the liver really plays into this. Oh my gosh. I love you, Christy. Misty, thank you so much. It's me, Dr. I know there's a last name change and I'm wondering why. I love it. All right, everybody. That I think when we look at Mary Jane's case, so the solution to Mary Jane's case, this is how we solved her case. Number one, we found that the thyroid medication that she was taking in the inactive form didn't work well for her because you know why? Her digestion and her liver sucked. She couldn't activate it. So in working with Mary Jane in her digestion and fixing it, we were able to activate the conversion of her thyroid hormones from inactive to active. And by fixing her digestion, her iron started to build. And guess what? 6 months later, full head of hair.
Oh, and how rewarding that is as a doctor, but also for her, because, I saw a comment from somebody earlier saying gobs of hair come out every time I shower and I just spend hours crying. And I get that.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to tell you guys something, like hair is a very emotional issue. Yeah. And so many of us, male and female, have hair as our identity. And how many of us, our hair in our life has been our crowning glory? Not only is it your identity, but it's your crowning glory. And the thing is, we wash our hair on a regular basis. And visually, you look at your face, you look at your hair every single day. And when you wash your hair and you actually see the hair come out and go down into the drain, it is a really triggering thing. And to be told that, there's nothing to be done, it's normal, or, no matter how much you chase the doses, it keeps doing that, to me is maddening. And so for me, there is definitely aspects of medical gaslighting involved where people are being dismissed about this, number one. But number two, there's medical ignorance, provider ignorance. I will say, looking at Mary Jane's case, she was 51 when she started working with us. How many years ago now? 4 years. We had worked with Mary Jane. 6 years she's been struggling with this problem to the point where there was almost no hair left. And here's something important. When we have an autoimmune issue, the causes of hair loss isn't just low thyroid or low iron. There's actually many autoimmune diseases, like those of you with connective tissue. Somebody was Carla, or somebody, how do I remember this? Carla was talking about how she had mixed connective tissue, right, disorder. Some people can have actually autoimmune attack against hair follicles that damage and kill off hair follicles. And here's the thing is, if there's permanent damage to a hair follicle, no matter how good the iron is or how high the thyroid, proper the thyroid function is, it's not coming back. So how important is it for early intervention?
Mm-hmm. And I'm just wondering, I mean, it's kind of a hypothetical question. I already know the answer, but when you go to your doctor and you say, oh, my hair's falling out, what specialist do they send you to?
What, dermatologist maybe?
A dermatologist.
Who knows nothing about thyroid?
Yeah.
Right?
Or
autoimmune disease.
Or autoimmune disease or anything, right?
It's true. I mean, that actually exact scenario happened to me, and they started talking to me about, all kinds of hair loss treatments that we could pursue. And I started thinking to myself, well, none of those are going to attack the reason as to why is this happening? Why would the hair be coming out? So is it really going to fix the problem?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, and you and I share this. I mean, meaning that for me, postpartum, after I delivered my second child, I lost so much hair, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, I was still being told I had nothing wrong with my thyroid, just so you guys know. And I had low iron. I had undiagnosed autoimmune diseases, not just one, multiple, right? And so I'm interested in, and Anne has shared in our alumni group too. I mean, there's therapies that can be done for hair loss, like LED light, red light therapy, LED light, right? The iron. There's like literally hundreds of tools that can be used. But even if you get a really expensive LED or red light, for example, to wear, some people wear the scalp on it. The issue is that that's great, right? That's really help anti-inflammatory. It can stimulate new growth. But the problem is, if there's still an underlying autoimmune attack attacking that hair follicle, it's almost like grow, kill you, grow, kill you, grow, kill you. We want these therapies to work together by calming down the autoimmune attack, by fixing your digestion, and making sure that if you do need thyroid medication, you're on the exact right dose you need to be and the right type of thyroid medication. How critical do you guys think that is, right?
Yeah. So I'm hearing it really matters attacking the root cause. It goes back to the 5 pillars. Digestion is key here, but the whole picture of the 5 pillars, you have to attack this from all angles because the problem didn't creep up overnight, and it probably is multifactorial as to why it's happening.
And this is just another from one of our content that we teach in my thyroid masterclass. When you look at goiters, nodules, cysts, and thyroid cancer, all of these, and these are a definition of what some of those terms are. It's your thyroid reacting to being under autoimmune attack. Well, the same thing's happening with the hair follicles. So hair follicles could be undernourished, right, with not enough iron and blood flow, right? It could be under autoimmune attack, and it could be underfueled by not adequate enough of thyroid hormone, right? So all 3 of those can be issues with it. So I'm just bringing up using just this image to talk about how multifactorial, but underlying, there's many ways in which the thyroid and the attack against it can impact hair loss.
And you bring up another point there again about the autoimmune attack. And I have seen several comments on here wondering, okay, so which test do I take that diagnoses the autoimmunity? And I think it goes back to your comment, right? That even so many times these tests can still be negative, right? And you can still have an autoimmune attack.
Well, I think this is really a great question, Michelle, and I talked about it on the last thyroid live, but like just going back to this slide, there's in that walnut size organ, which is your thyroid, there's over 6,000 different targets of autoimmune attack. Now, do you know how many, like even if you go to the best laboratory in the world that has the most complete list of blood work to test targets, do you guys know how many targets could even be tested on Earth? Okay, known to man currently, we're in 2024 right now. How many targets can be tested in the best lab in the world out of those 6,000 targets? Does anyone know? Type it in chat. And Michelle, I'm going to ask you that. Type in chat. Yes, everybody, right? And anyone? It's actually less than 13, just so you guys know. And typically, the people who say 3 is correct. The typical laboratory only tests 3. So how many of you are quote unquote lucky enough to get 3 out of 6,000 tested, and then we're lucky enough to told you don't have an autoimmune problem with your thyroid, right? So they're absolutely, Michelle, any of the labs that you go to and any doctor you go to can actually order an autoimmune thyroid lab panel, and you'll get 3 tests that are associated with it. But don't fall into the erroneous trap of being gaslit or being ignorantly told that if those 3 test negative, that you don't have an autoimmune attack against your thyroid. That was the big takeaway from last week's live. And if you want to be tagged in last week's live, put last week's thyroid live, and our team will tag you in that live training. And it's also part of our thyroid guide and 6-part thyroid training, just so you guys know.
Okay.
All right.
I want to make sure that we have time for our last big common symptom, because so many people have shared that they've dealt with this. And we talked about how hair loss can be very triggering. This last symptom can as well. And we're talking about stubborn weight gain. And sometimes it can be quite a bit of weight gain, right? And you cannot get it off. Nothing you seem to do helps to get this weight off. So I just want to share with you a couple quotes. Victoria J says, my biggest challenge, low energy and awful weight gain. Marina says, since having my baby, TSH levels have been super high. I've gained so much weight and I have no idea where to start with losing it. So what do we need to know about the connection here between weight gain and the thyroid?
So where I want to start actually is, what are the things that we normally do to lose weight?
Diet and exercise.
Exercise, like fiends,
Yes.
and then we restrict our calories, right? Are either of those good when you have low thyroid? No, right? Especially when you've got added issues of, like we were talking about before, when you've got an issue with your thyroid, chances are there might be an issue with your adrenals or your other hormone making organs. So it's a whole big mess when the only two options we're given to lose that weight are exercise more, eat less, right?
You know what I love too? But look at this. Jill W., who just recently is starting our program, is saying she's been trying to lose weight for 25 years. I can tell you already, and it's going to relate to this case. Just in the couple weeks we've been starting to work with Jill, I already see completely way less swelling in the neck, and that's thyroid. Everybody, you could just visually see, and this is just within 3 weeks. And why would someone be stubborn weight gain for 25 years? Why within just a couple weeks, visibly, you could already see the swelling go down? Why? Right? It's because, so let's go over, I would love to talk about Angela's case. Angela's currently, she is about 2 months post starting one of our programs. And Angela is 54. She's been struggling with POTS, chronic fatigue, weight gain, and over the last 3 years have gained about 50 pounds. Okay. And my question for you, one of the important things for Angela's case was, because she already had the POTS, which many of you guys, I don't know how many people out there are struggling with POTS or dysautonomia. Some of you don't know what I'm talking about with POTS. How many of you get positional change, dizziness, blood pressure change, or just when you get up or when you lay down, your heart starts having palpitations? How many of you guys have been to the ER multiple times and have been told your heart is normal, but yet there's fast heart rate and irregular heart rates, right? POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, is number one, hard to diagnose, but number two, one of the most common manifestation of people with thyroid problems. Okay.
That's a big truth bomb. That is a big truth bomb. And I don't know that, I've heard that very often. And I've never heard it from any other doctor, that's for sure.
Yeah, so the question really is that how is the POTS and the weight related? And one of the most important things is, and Kathy, this is in Jill's case and some of the other people's cases that we talked about. Many people come to us with known autoimmune issues or with issues that have been dismissed that we know is autoimmune related, right? So POTS is a classic one we know is autoimmune related, right? And when you look at Angela's family history, literally every single person in her family has thyroid problems, okay? That is autoimmune related, and her mom even had thyroid cancer, okay? So there you go, boom. And we know autoimmunity is also hereditary. So one of the most important things that we did in working with Angela was we said, hey, you have thoughts, you have a strong family history, everybody has a thyroid problem, and we already know 90% of thyroid problems are autoimmune related. So I've talked before in the past how gluten is one of the biggest triggers of autoimmune attack.
Mhm.
And so the one thing that Angela did was she went gluten-free. Number one thing she did was she went gluten-free.
Mhm.
Okay. And I'm going to do a reveal here. Okay. 2 months later, just guess how many pounds Angela has lost by just going gluten-free.
In just 2 months? How many? I'm that very curious.
I'm going to ask you guys, how many pounds would you like to lose in 2 months? Everybody type in chat. How many pounds would you like to lose in 2 months?
Yeah.
Type in chat, put in a number, put it
And
in.
Jillian
All right.
saying she feels so much better since going gluten-free also.
Right.
The one thing I
26
want to
pounds.
say about that, this wasn't Angela, but this was another client who you know, who had gone gluten-free before she started into the program, but then she switched all of her glutinous grains and all of those things to almonds. And then when we did her food mapping, and she didn't lose weight. And then when we did her food mapping, we found out that she was actually
Sensitive to almonds.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's no wonder her body
traded one for the other. Yeah, exactly.
Lucky for Angela it was for her just gluten. So when she went gluten-free, like she lost 26 pounds in 2 months.
26. Okay, that's significant. Most people were guessing about 15 to 20 and saying that they wanted to lose about that amount too, but 26 pounds in 2 months.
Yeah.
And some people are even saying they need to lose 50 pounds. So, I mean, the problem is real. And this does then have other impacts on our metabolic health, right? If we're carrying around this extra weight that just can't seem to get off, how is that impacting other body systems? So if you can attack this and find the root cause, like gluten or almonds, potentially, and then lose weight.
And then the other piece of this, of course, is that oftentimes when we see, or many times when we see thyroid issues, we see hormonal issues. And one of the very common patterns we see with low thyroid is actually estrogen dominance. Is an estrogen dominant
hormone imbalance. Yeah.
Yeah. And so this is very, very common. And when we have that pattern, and there's a couple of different hormonal patterns that will really impact weight. And they're totally interconnected. One feeds the other, right? So when you've got this thyroid issue, it's going to impact the hormonal issue, and when you have the hormonal issue, it's going to impact the thyroid. So it ends up being this negative cycle where it becomes almost impossible to lose the weight.
Well, and that's why for me this is a really cool thing. I want to tie some connections for you guys because in Angela's case and Kristen's, like I remember her because we actually witnessed these together. We witnessed these changes together. These are real people with their real outcomes, right? One of the things that I want to bring up is that, you know, for some people, right, it's like I need my thyroid to be turned around, and I need to learn all these patterns. Pattern recognition is what we keep talking about. That's is what Kathy said. Like there are patterns that your thyroid that is underlying root cause that's causing your thyroid problem. And then and when we talk about Kristen saying thyroid, you know, food mapping is free. Well, for some people, the underlying root cause, one of the biggest triggers is actually food sensitivities, or it might be a gluten intolerance of some sort with other autoimmune issues, right? And then for another person, it could be because they have really big ovarian hormone problems. They're going through menopause. They had underlying thyroid problems, but now they're going through menopause. And the combination of the two is the shitstorm that turns on the weight gain, right? So these are patterns and underlying root causes. And that's also why we have programs. We don't just have one program, we have programs. And when I talk about, for example, like looking at our thyroid program, this is the latest program we just launched is my thyroid masterclass. And when you're looking at my thyroid masterclass, number one, you get the right testing. That to no end. We actually send out a finger stick blood spot test where you can get comprehensive, the right test panel for your thyroid. Number two, you can learn what the patterns are. There's so many, right? And then you work with us live to get personalized instruction, review, underlying root cause analysis, implementation, right? And then you learn how to manage your thyroid for life and how to talk to your doctors and engage with them and to understand all the medication different options. Maybe you don't need medication after all, right? So that's our thyroid program that we're talking about. That's my thyroid masterclass. But that being said, some of you are going to be looking at this and saying, you know what, my thyroid I think is doing pretty decent, but I think the food piece is a big deal. Well, that would be my food mapping masterclass, and I've talked about that a ton, right? And then some of you are like, well, I really am going through menopause, and I think that's really causing all of this to my thyroid. I want to focus on my hormones, right? So there are multiple programs that we have talking about. So I'm going to say right now is that here's a link to download the thyroid guide. Okay, so you can take a look at this QR code. You can go ahead and scan that right now. Download the thyroid guide. Anybody that we're talking to about that, number one. Number two, talk to us, right? Make sure that if you're any of these symptoms that you're talking about, the fatigue, right, the hair loss or the weight gain, and it's ringing a bell, whether it's autoimmune, whether it's low iron, digestion, food mapping, other hormone related, right? Help us help you choose the right solution for you. So I wanted to make sure you guys are aware that there are underlying connections and there are patterns between food, hormones, autoimmunity, digestion, and gut that are related with underlying thyroid hormone health. And the thyroid itself, lots of patterns that your doctors are missing.
And we just want to get our hands on you because we just love to solve these mysteries that people have.
Well, and to hear how quickly things can turn around. Like you said,
yeah.
Angela lost 26 pounds in 2 months. The other case study, was it before that when you were talking about
Mary Jane?
Yeah.
Took her 6 months and she has a full head of hair. And this is 6 years later. Still a full head of hair, everybody, because you know why? We calmed that darn autoimmune attack in her, right? And her digestion is fixed and her iron level's great. But those were her underlying root causes, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And then the fatigue, Linda's fatigue turning around. And we had so many people say fatigue was such a big problem that they were dealing with. And you're not getting help otherwise from your doctors to deal with fatigue. So, yeah, I think it's really encouraging to know that you can turn this around and you can turn this around in a relatively quick period of time. It's just about getting the proper testing, having it targeted, personalized to you, and having the experts get their hands on you.
Well, and I do want to put some additional insight. Like, I think when I look at Angela's case, where understanding the autoimmune link and her just going gluten free and being able to lose the weight, I think that's fantastic, right? But I do want to say that when we look at most cases of why someone gains weight because of low thyroid, I want you guys to know that there's an underlying scientific mechanism involved. I love mechanisms. I love biochemistry. So I want to educate you a lot about that, which is that when you have active thyroid hormone, the receptor for the heart is very sensitive to the active thyroid hormone, but so are the receptors in your fat cells and in your liver. Okay. And so one of the most important things that you could do to boost your metabolism or get your metabolism to where it is actually to get a critical, like a evaluation of these thyroid labs and numbers. And when you look and you see, especially active thyroid hormone is not where it needs to be, it's life-changing. If you're at 50% of the active thyroid hormone and you actually either by working on improving the activation of the inactive to active, or sometimes you take a little bit of a low dose something, or you take supplementation to help you convert or activate more thyroid hormone, boom. It's like people notice, like people are like, I'm waking up, brain fog. Like we didn't even mention brain fog, but that's one of the fastest ways to turn around brain fog is to get someone's active thyroid hormone from 0 to hero. And that can happen overnight.
Overnight.
Right? Yes.
That's very encouraging. And I'm just hearing you, the active thyroid hormone, and seeing where that is. And I'm just wondering, all of the people out there who are even on thyroid medication, how is your doctor even monitoring your progress, right? What are they testing to see if you're on the right dose, shall we say? And I would be to bet it is not the same way that Dr. Maggie or Kathy would like to monitor if you're on the right dose.
Well, and that's the other thing is one of the questions I get asked, and write this down, everybody, is that when you know the right thyroid labs to order, and let's say you do start a thyroid medication, some people will tell me that their doctors don't even want to test their thyroid, retest their thyroid for 6 weeks. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Right? I'm going to ask in chat right now, all the teachers that are in there, How quickly after you start a medication or adjust a dose of a thyroid medication can you retest your thyroid to know whether that's even the right dose or not so we can pivot? How quickly is that? Type it in the chat. And then the rest of you can take notes, all right? I'd love to know all the student teachers in chat
Yeah.
because it doesn't have to be slow. Can things happen fast? And the answer is yes, it can happen fast. And the way that we currently tell people when we change their dose to say, you know what, will we check it in 6 weeks? We check it in 6 months. I think it's asinine. Okay. So how quickly can we test? Oh my God, Bestie.
Boom. 7 to 10 days. Yeah.
Exactly.
Or
Within 2 weeks.
Within 2 weeks. Yeah.
And that's my question. Yeah.
1 week. As quickly as 1 week, because that's how fast it can change.
Right. Exactly. So that's my thing for everybody is how quickly do you want to solve this problem? Do you want to solve it in 6 weeks? Do you want to solve it in 6 months?
No.
How about in 6 days or 2 weeks? How about in just a couple months, right? So that's why I call my thyroid masterclass 4 months to total thyroid transformation. Because things can rapidly really change. You can get a master's degree on managing your thyroid. You can be, and you already are, just by watching this, smarter than 99% of doctors you'll ever see around your thyroid. I'm just letting you know that.
Yeah. The information is
Like,
just blowing the minds of people here, you know, because they've never experienced working with someone in that way.
Yeah.
It
And
really
so,
is life-changing. It absolutely is life-changing. I can't tell you how many people I know personally or as clients who have been diagnosed with something like fibromyalgia. And it's actually a thyroid condition. Their doctor hasn't even tested their thyroid, and it ends up being a thyroid condition.
You know, it's the funny thing. It's not funny, but you know, the chronic fatigue, the label chronic fatigue syndrome.
Yes.
80% of those people have undiagnosed thyroid problems. So how many of those people really have chronic fatigue syndrome or undiagnosed thyroid problems?
Wow.
Yeah, because some of these diagnoses are where people get put in a bucket because they don't have another diagnosis for them. So they give it a name and they say, this is what you have, right? And yeah.
And they don't know how to help you with it either, right?
Exactly.
They give you that label, but what's the solution?
Mm-hmm.
So what I would love, everybody, we've been on for about an hour. What I would love is for you guys to type in chat, what's one thing that you learned and one thing that you're going to be doing different about your thyroid. And one thing you're going to be doing different with fatigue, your approach to fatigue, your approach to hair loss, or your approach to weight, trying to lose weight, right? What's one thing different that you're going to do? And I have a question for you. I'm going to ask you guys for a poll too. Type in chat. I would love to know one thing you're going to do different. Tell me you learned something in the past hour and what it is. One thing that you're going to do. Action step, everybody. And then I'm going to ask you guys next week. I'm debating, okay? And I want to know if it's a yay or nay. I'm thinking about doing a live next week around the do's and don'ts, of your thyroid. Either do's and don'ts or do this, not that on your thyroid. You know, like I said, I love makeup channels and they're always like, buy this, not that. Well, would you guys like to do a live where Kathy, myself, Top Docs panel will bring in Dr. Jason as well if he's available, and we're going to go through do this, not that. How about that? If you would like to do this, not that next week on the thyroid, I'd like a vote in chat to say do this, not that. Put it in there. Say yes for next week. In the chat, that'll be really great. And we're getting comments coming in left and right from YouTube. And by the way, if you're watching from YouTube, okay, and I'm also going to share the link of this live from YouTube. Our YouTube channel is growing by 4,000 subscribers a month. Okay, and if you're getting value from this, I just want you to know less than 10% of the people watching us on YouTube are subscribers. So it gives you an idea of how many people are actually watching. I want everybody watching on YouTube right now, and everybody who's not watching on YouTube, click the link to watch this on YouTube. Give me a subscribe on our channel. Give me a subscribe on our channel. That'll really help us out because you know what it is? For every single person that subscribes, YouTube will actually share our video to at least 10 to 50 more people and say, hey, you might be interested in this. So sharing is caring. This is the best way that you can actually share us is by giving us a subscribe, giving us a thumbs up on this video. This will increase the number of people from what that is being exposed to this from, let's say, 10,000 to 100,000 just by that one action alone. So it amplifies. So everybody, if you can get over to YouTube, give us a thumbs up, give us a subscribe. That'd be really awesome. And even better, if you ring that bell to get notified, you will be notified every time we go live. And we are thinking about going live, not just once a week, but possibly twice a week. Double trouble.
Balloons popping up too. Hey, really fancy over here. But I have to tell you, Dr. Maggie, so many people are chiming in saying yes, 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 please to the do this, not that, for next week. So they would really appreciate that.
Oh my gosh, look at all those comments. All right, everybody, that is a wrap. And I'm going to be reading all these comments. Just so you guys know, I read every single one of these comments, okay? Kathy and I read these comments. I would love to know if you have any additional questions, any of the big aha takeaways. I would love for you to share your personal story. I would love to hear, and I would love to hear, see, acknowledge what's going on with you. And if there's anything that you tonight where you're like, I want to learn, I want to get to the bottom of this, make sure you book a chat with our team. We would love to talk to you. We would love to have a real person talk to you about this. So that is a wrap, everybody. So I think it looks like we have at least, about 30, 40 comments wanting a live next week. Do this, not that. So I think that's going to happen. Same bat time, same channel. Maybe same bat channel, but maybe a different bat time. The reason we were a little bit late today is because I'm coming in coldcation from Calgary, Canada. But next week I'll be back. So it might be a little bit early in the day, but we're coming in hot, coming in live next week, Thursday. Do this, not that for your thyroid. How about that?
We appreciate it. And see, that's how dedicated you are to spreading information, Dr. Maggie, and helping educate everyone, is you're even doing this on your coldcation. You're spending the time on your personal time to still educate us. So we appreciate that. And thank you for already committing to continuing education next week. And Kathy, thank you as well for all of your help tonight.
It was great being here. Thank you.
Everybody give us a boom in chat if you enjoyed that. I would love to see all the booms. Have a wonderful evening, everybody.
Good night.